Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak. Today, we're standing up the lift. Made the trip to Columbus and picked up our lift. And what we did, because we are not ready for it, obviously we have no concrete to attach it to. So we took the box with the motor off of there, took it in the garage, and then we wrapped a tarp around the opening in the plastic, but everything else is wrapped in plastic. So we're just gonna leave it on the trailer for right now. I don't think we'll need the trailer before we get ready to put the lift up. So see you next time when we get ready to install it. So we managed to get the lift off of the trailer. I had to unload it so I could use the trailer to haul my tractor to do some work. All right, there she is. It's gonna look good in here. Today, we're standing up the lift. It's been a long road to get to this point, and we actually ordered this lift probably 4 months ago, and we had to go up to Columbus and pick it up about a month and a half ago, and it's been sitting wrapped up on our trailer waiting for us to finish the building, get the concrete poured. We got the concrete poured, and we had to wait 30 days for it to cure before we can actually install the lift. So we've tried to do everything else that we can do so that we'll be ready. We get the lift installed, then we'll be ready to clean our floors really good, get our epoxy coating on, and get some workbenches in here and get moved in. So we are getting very close. So I'm gonna share with you some of the footage of where we went to pick this up in Columbus, Ohio, and bringing it home, unloading it, and all that kind of stuff. And then I'll show you where we're at up to this point. I actually have, and I didn't film this part, because, well, I just came out here one night and did it when I had a few minutes to spare. But I had a box with my 220 wire ran to it, ready to go. So I went ahead and got me a plate on it, put me a fitting, and run my protected wire down so that it'll be ready to run down the side of the lift post. So I've got that taken care of. And then we also came out here last night, just kind of basically had a few minutes to kill, not enough time to get much work done. So we chalked a line dead center of the building, which is where we want our posts, because what we want is for any vehicle that we have on the lift to sit mostly towards the front of the building, so we have as much room as possible in front of the vehicle to work. So we used my Dodge Ram 2500 quad cab short bed truck as a guide for how much space we needed between where the lift points are and the door, and we can lift my truck with about 1.5 feet to spare. I think that probably means that if we had a quad cab long bed 2500, we might not be able to lift it in here, but I don't have one of those. I don't see myself getting one of those. So we're gonna go ahead and set it up like this. I think the majority of what we're gonna need is space in front of the lift for our work, so, and workbenches and toolboxes and all that stuff. So that's the way we decided to figure this up. Now, if you have this lift, the minimum specs for laying out your floor space are all in the manual, and it tells you exactly how to measure it all out and make all that work. And so we kind of used that as our guide, but then we also did a little bit of our own adapting to make it fit what we're trying to do. Now we measured down the center of the floor, and then if you can see that orange square right there, that is the footprint for the leg on this side. And then we laid out the measurement between the two posts, and we've got our other square laid out, and this is the post on the other side. So this is exactly where it's going to set, and this seam between the two pieces of concrete is the center of our building. So I got home from work today, and I got just a little bit of time to work before we need to leave for church. So I was actually going to use my tractor. I had a plan to stand these posts up by myself, but the camera just pulled in the driveway. All right, guys, the first upright is up, and it was a trip. These, with the overhead beam being 12 foot tall, man, it's hard to stand up. And I didn't have the tractor in here at the right angle to where I could really do it right. I'm not sure how we'll set up for the next one, but we'll do it differently. My blanket didn't work real well for protecting it because I let the bucket edge get into it, and it wore through the blanket and scraped the paint, so we scratched it up a little bit. But we did figure out a way to get it stood up, and so we're gonna kind of shim it and level it up a little bit, just so that it's stable until we're ready to drill. All right, so the first anchor is in, went great. The DeWalt drill is amazing. Did a fantastic job, drilled real easy. So now what I wanted to get one bolt in it so that I can set this crossbar up there and not have to worry about pulling it over while I set the other side up. So we'll see how this is gonna go. This is definitely a two-man job. So I'm about to get loaded shotgun on the deal and see if I can't put it up there by myself. I got y'all's next challenge for you. One-man job. Somebody show me how it's done. I ain't doing it. I'm done. Just gonna have to wait for Cameron. I can usually figure out a way to do just about anything on my own, but I'm just not strong enough. That's gonna get me hurt or tear something up. It ain't worth it. I gotta stop. Remember that old horse mat? Anti-vibration. Freebies. You know that sound as the lift goes up? That's where it comes from. Kind of out past the post, and then that way gives me room to climb up this. And then once I get set here, then whenever you're ready. Gotta go in the front on this. Up over the top. Drop down in. With the drop. No, it looks like that box is in the way. No, man. You just sit off offset that thing. Alright. It's on it, right? It's nothing fair, dude. But it ain't gonna fall. What? It ain't gonna fall out though, right? I don't think so. Alright, then you need to come down, get your ladder and come over here. best. All right, so getting that crossbar up there was a trip because we only had one bolt in one side because we had to still be able to move this other side and get it in. And because our clearances are so tight and we have, well, basically less than an inch above it, it was a trip to get put together, that's for sure. We ended up having to use a bottle jack to spread the top just a little bit to get that plate to drop down inside it because it was kind of, you know, bowed in. So gotta use some finagling to get it to work. All right, so we went ahead and threw a couple bolts in the other side over there just to stabilize it because this thing being hooked together and not bolted down is pretty sketchy. But this side here, that plate was welded just a little bit crooked on top, which has the post twisted a little bit. So to square it up, I've got the corner where I need it. I'm gonna go ahead and drill the corner on this side. And that way we've got the other side bolted in and we've got one bolt in this side so that we can't lose the thing. And then we'll start twisting on it to get it squared up and get it where we need it to be. Yeah, this is not an easy install.
$70 degrees one day, snowing the next. It's becoming a ritual around here. I'm about done with it.
All right, so last night we got her all bolted down, anchored, everything's set to go. So today, I've got to run the overhead cables and the hydraulic lines through the top rail. Now, as you can see, my precision building has got us right up against the ceiling. And the instructions show you running a hydraulic cable through there and over to the other side and attaching to a T. Unfortunately, that is not how this lift is designed. The hoses connect in the middle. So I'm gonna have to cut a hole in my insulation up there so that I can get up on top and attach those two hoses together in the middle of that rail. That's what I'm gonna have to do today, so we're gonna get all that stuff hooked up. Probably gonna have to make a run to Lowe's to get a couple of things to finish up the wiring, and yeah, it's coming together. Got the hard part done anyway. So you can run 32 or 46, whatever you call the weight, AW32 or AW46 in these, but 32 is thinner, so it's better for colder temperatures. So we figured we'd go ahead and go with that. Probably a little easier on the pump. I don't really know that much about it, but that's what we decided anyway. It takes 4 gallons. Pretty well all that's going to go in the reservoir now. All right, so we got her wired up and I've got all the cables ran, I've got all the hoses on. we want to kind of do just a little test run here before I put the arms on and all that, just to see if we got any hydraulic leaks, make sure that the wiring works and that the cutoff switch is working. And so we're going to kind of test all that out and, you know, bleed the air out of the lines and get the tank topped off to where it's supposed to be and all that. So let's go flip the power on and see what we got. Moment of truth. Unseal it. Nothing sizzling and popping yet. That's a good sign. All right. I'm assuming, there they go. All right. All right, so we are not in sync as far as our arms go. And we got air in there, so we have to work that out. It's, the locks seem to be working right, so. All right, I got the inside of the posts greased front and back. So now I'm going to wipe down the cables with 80, 90 gear oil just to lube those up real good. Get everything off to a good start. Okay, pretty much the last thing I got to do is put my covers on this setup, and then I'm going to figure out how to attach this to this. I'm not really sure how I'm going to route it, but yeah, we'll figure that out, get this place cleaned up, and call this a wrap. She's done. I'm excited. I'm also exhausted. I will say this was substantially more difficult to install than I expected it to be. These posts, being 12 foot tall, they were very, very heavy to stand up. That was hard. This crossbar is very heavy, thick steel. And even when me and Cameron worked together to get it up there, it was still very hard to get it in position, and it felt like a loaded shotgun trying to do it with one side having no bolts in it. But you have to leave it loose so that you can get everything positioned correctly, because there are steel plates on top that are the shape of those posts, and it slides down in the top of it. Because I didn't have any extra overhead room, I built the garage exactly to the specs of the lift. I didn't have any margin for error. We couldn't just pick it up over the top of the post and set it down on top because there's pulleys and all that, and I needed more overhead space. So if you're planning out your garage around a lift like I did, just know that the installation process could use an extra 4 or 5 inches over the top. Would be handy. So if you have that option, go 6 inches higher just to cover yourself. It'll make your install a lot easier. I like the way it looks tucked up right against the ceiling like that. So it turned out really nice. I'm thrilled with it, but it was difficult. Everything about it is big and heavy and beefy, and so it's kind of a little bit hard to work with. Being that it's, you know, from, I'm assuming, China, there are lots and lots of little things about this lift that the instructions are different. So the pictures, the diagrams, and all of that, they don't match the way that this one works. And so if you're not mechanically inclined, you're probably going to struggle to figure out how to put this thing together because it doesn't match the pictures. Now, you study it a little bit, you'll figure out how it works, and it's not too hard to figure out. There's nothing complicated about a lift, but I was trying to kind of be methodical and follow the instructions, and that went out the window pretty quickly because they didn't match. Even the way like these little leg locks down here work are entirely different than the instruction manual that I had. And I had the instruction manual, the installation manual for the exact lift model that I have, but things were different. So that made it a little bit interesting. There's only one thing about this lift that I think is not working exactly the way it's supposed to, and that is this relief valve right here. If you press it all the way in, it blocks off the release mechanism. You actually, and it took us forever to figure this out. I thought that we had something in a bind or who knows what, but if you just press the lever about halfway in, then it releases and works the way that it should to lower the arm. So I may read about that and do some adjustments or whatever on that valve to make it work to where you just press the lever in all the way. But no big deal. Overall, our install went really cleanly. We used that DeWalt hammer drill to drill these anchors, and that was amazing. We drilled our holes exactly the way the instructions said. I was probably just a little uneasy with how far the bolts pulled up. You know, I poured this pad extra thick so that I would have plenty there, and I'm kind of wishing that I had driven these a little deeper down into the hole, but I didn't realize how much they were going to pull up as they spread and tightened up in the concrete. Now, that being said, they all tightened up to torque spec, just exactly how they should. So I don't think we're going to have any issues with it. You know, it's just when you're working with something like this, you want everything to be just perfect and never having put one in. You know, it makes me a little uneasy. We'll probably start small, maybe the Corolla, and work our way up. I'm not going to just bring the big diesel in here and put it up on the lift first thing. I think we'll kind of work our way up to it. It's kind of funny. As I was greasing the arms and I had it up in the air and I had it sitting on the safety stops, I still was like leery to climb in under the arms because I'm just not used to working on a lift. So it's going to take some getting used to, but man, I'm really excited to put it into action. We tested it out. We got everything working. A safety switch on top that kills it if the roof gets up to it. That works. So everything's good to go. We're all set. So the next step in this project is to get these floors really clean and etched because we're going to put down epoxy. So we're going to coat this with, I think Cameron wants a solid white gloss epoxy on this floor. So that's what we're going to go with. I kind of let him choose, and I'm all about making it as bright as we can. Anything white's going to help your lighting and all of that. So when you're working on cars, you always want more light. So I'm all about that. So that's going to be the next step. We got to get this floor good and clean and then figure out our process for putting down the epoxy. So hope y'all enjoyed this. I am going to go back and make a concise video about this lift, kind of like I did with my air compressor install. I want to share some tips and tricks for the installation of this lift, but that's not what this video was meant to be about. This was just kind of sharing the progress with everybody who's been following the build. But I'm sure there will be people going to YouTube to figure out some of these little things that don't match the instructions when they're installing their lift. So I'm going to try to put together a few tips and tricks on that. So if you're interested, come back and watch that one. We appreciate y'all watching. Y'all have a good day.
make sure they're in the right spot.
So on the front arm, same thing on the front?
I think, I haven't got down here to look, yeah. I think these little,
Am I far enough back on the lift then?
I think so. I mean, what you'll do is pick it up some, or I can pick it up some when you get your stringies out. We can make sure they're all four gonna hit where they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Pick it up like an inch off the ground, and push on the hood, and then push on the trunk.
Yeah.
See how it feels. Because I mean, if it comes down an inch, it's not gonna hurt anything.
Right. Okay. I'm good.
Sure I am.
Check back here.
Front arm's good.
Back arm's good.
I think my rear arm is a little far forward. Sure I'm good there. Alright, ready?
Yep.
It's off.
Just barely.
Pretty sturdy, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going nowhere. That's good.
Is that it?
Yep.
Cool.
Put her down on the lock.
Yeah.